All right, should we be punctual? What do you say, Charlie?
Punctual, yeah, of course, yes,
Yep.
I agree. Let's do it.
Okay, so off we go. Welcome everybody. I'm sure we will have some people coming in, a little bit late, but no problem. My name is Nora. I am with Coaches Across Continents. Myself and Charlie Pomeroy will introduce ourselves a little bit later, but we just wanted to start off by welcoming everyone. We're really excited to be doing this. This is right the new normal of meeting with people through a platform like this. Um, and as I said a few minutes ago, we really want this to be a conversation. So we do have a presentation planned, but our goal is to make it as interactive as possible. This platform does not have breakout sessions, so we're hoping this is just one big breakout session conversation. So we're going to have places where you can, more specifically, we want to open up the floor to anyone who wants to contribute. Um, but that being said, if you ever have a question, please feel free to type it in, and we'll go from there. So today we're going to, some of you have heard of Coaches Across Continents. Some of you, I believe, have experienced our methodology in action before, and others, I think, are probably new to what we do. So we wanted to balance that out and share a little bit about who we are and what we do in the world, but also introduce what we do through doing it, which is, again, this is our style. So we are going to have a couple of challenges throughout this session, and we're really looking forward to learning more about you and your ideas. So as it says on the slide, we're going to talk a little bit about our methodology, go through some of our curriculum examples and how we design it. We're going to do an adapting challenge with you all, and we know that everything probably for you in the past few months has been focused on COVID-19 pandemic. So we are going to talk about that a little bit, but we didn't want that to be the focus of this call today. But we will talk about adapting play to COVID-19 because we know that's very relevant for everyone in this space. All right. So yes, there are the two presenters for today from Coaches Across Continents. I'm Nora, and I lead the Impact Team Division at CAC. I have just a little bit about me. I'm currently in Ireland. I do not have an Irish accent. I was born in the US, and I played football my whole life, soccer. And I played, my dream my whole life was to play professional, play Division I in college. That was my kind of very narrow goal in life. I went to college and I played in college in New York City, and then my world grew and I went to South Africa for a year. I lived in Kimberley, for anyone from South Africa here, for 1 year. It's not the tourist destination. I loved it, and it taught me so much about what I didn't know about the world. So I learned how little I actually knew about anything. And then Coaches Across Continents was kind enough to give me an opportunity about 7 years ago. And I started traveling and learning about everything that sport could do that wasn't related to competition. So I kind of transitioned from this ultra competitive young woman into someone who really challenges that traditional culture of competition, focusing on winning or losing. Whereas, what CAC does is just open that up to, what else sport and play can do for us, as human beings, and especially for young people. So yes, really excited to be here. I love being on field, so I wish we were all together and there were footballs and equipment around us and we could start playing, but this is where we're at, so really appreciate everyone today. Over to you, Charlie.
Good afternoon, everybody, or morning, wherever you are in the world. So I'm Charlie. I'm Coaches Across Continents' newest employee. I work on the development team. I've actually been involved with Coaches Across Continents, I think, for around about 7 years now. I originally started a project that they partnered with back in 2013. I then went in 2015 to the Philippines with Nora to work as an impact coach. And then late last year became the newest employee, helping in all areas of coaches across continent, shall we say. But my background is I'm an English guy. I think you can tell that by my accent. Um, yes, but I've lived in Cambodia now for the past 8 years. I'm a professional football coach by trade, so I left school and went straight into coaching. Gave up a football, some say a promising football career, others tell the truth. But went straight into coaching, and I've been lucky. I mean, I have not coached in as many countries as Nora, that's for sure, but I've coached across 3 continents, and my main focus has always been developing youth players, young players, and trying to get them from grassroots through academy systems and into pro teams. However, this side of coaching, I much prefer. Seeing and showing the world what football can do, or any sport really, what sport can do for society, is where I see my future. So it's great to be here. I'm excited to get to know everybody, and let's have a fun session. All right, what are you?
All right. So we wanted to kind of quickly get through the introduction phase to CAC, so we can get to the fun part. So quickly, about who we are and what we do. We It's interesting, I think, for me to share a little bit more about how we chose the words you can see on the screen: purposeful play and education outside the classroom. Um, we used to use sport for social impacts, and we still do, but we really kind of intentionally shifted from sport to play because of what I mentioned a little bit ago when I was introducing myself, how much more we identify with play and the idea of play than we do necessarily with sport. Whereas sport, is wonderful, and we all come from a sporting background and we play and we love it. We think play kind of better holds what Coaches Across Continents does, and maybe you will agree after we go through a lot of curriculum and games and methodology today. But other than that, yes, we are, as Charlie mentioned, that I personally have coached in a lot of countries, but not everywhere that Coaches Across Continents operates. Um, and we operate through partnerships, and that's why we have such a big reach, because there are so many groups like all of you that already exist, and you're already doing wonderful things in your community. And our goal is to offer more tools. So we never come into a community and say, "You need us. We have the solutions to solve all your problems." And we actually don't even say we know what your problems are. But we ask a lot of questions and we listen, and we take those answers and we help design tools so that coaches and leaders and educators can use them the way that they know best, and the way that best suits their community, because they know their community much better than we do. Um, and we do, as we see on the slide, we are in more than 70 countries, and we have lots of countries and organizations on our wait list, especially right now because of the pandemic. I'm sure has changed operations for everybody, and that's, I think, one of the pieces that has been, you know, interesting for us, is how can we focus more on what we're, getting better at what we're doing with who we're doing it, and then wait a few more months to see if we can take on new partnerships. It doesn't mean we've stopped. And if anyone's interested in pursuing something after this session, please feel free. We'll open that opportunity up to reach out to us. Charlie, do you want to talk a bit about kind of what we do and how we do it? I'll also contribute. Or should I just carry on? I know Charlie said he's having some challenges with his Wi-Fi in Cambodia, so I know
I
we're
am right now. Yeah,
okay.
can you carry? Sorry, I'm gonna have to
Oh,
reset.
okay.
I do apologize.
No worries.
1 second.
No worries. I know
I'll
everybody
be right back.
understands you. So, what we do, as I mentioned, we operate through partnerships, and we have partnerships across sectors, which is something we feel is really important. We work mostly with community-based organizations, but we also work with governments, federations like AFC and CONCACAF. We work with corporations, bringing them into development is such an important piece. I'm sure other people on this call have experience there as well. And it's really important, I think, to mention also a few examples of what we do. So we have a set of 28 strategic resources that we support our partners with throughout the year. And every partnership is different. So we've developed these resources through a lot of listening and learning from what our partners are asking for. And maybe some of you have heard about Coaches Across Continents from the past of being more a train the trainer type organization. And that is still definitely something we do. We go on field with groups. We think that's such an important piece. One, we love it. We have so much fun doing it. And we think seeing the methodology and curriculum alive is the best way to learn it, because it is a little bit different than traditional sport, and maybe even different than traditional sport and development. But we'll let you be the judge of that. And so a couple of examples of those resources that might be relevant to some of the groups here are SAFE, which is our child safeguarding initiative, where we are kind of transitioning from focusing on child protection policies to making sure that those come to life in a community. So we now have child safe, coach safe, organization safe, and community safe. So a whole process of making sure that there's buy-in to creating spaces where children feel safe and empowered. And so that's one of them. We have resources to support partners with their monitoring and evaluation systems. Our favorites, I think something that we're constantly trying to challenge ourselves with. Not only relying on what has existed for years, but trying to come up with new things. Ask for Choice, which is our women's, kind of focuses on women's rights, girls and women's rights. And we work a little bit on grassroots policy development and curriculum design. And then the piece that's really relevant for today, which is our self-directed learning methodology. So we will come back to that throughout this presentation, just to kind of have that in your mind, self-directed learning methodology. Maybe you're familiar with it, maybe not. Hopefully after this session you will be. Charlie, do you want to, how's your connection going? So they're not just hearing my voice.
I'm hoping better.
There you go.
Can everybody hear me and see me? Yeah, sorry. I do apologize, guys. Cambodian Wi-Fi is it's not the best. So yeah, I mean, as you can see, I'm sure Nora may have already mentioned, you can see from our wonderful map diagram here that we are across 6 continents. I'm not quite sure where was the first ever CAC program? Tanzania. So that was the one. So as you can see, over the last 10 years, we have spread all over 6 continents, 111 countries. We are covering 6 UN SDGs, UN Sustainable Goals. Over 17 million young people have been influenced by CAC.
One thing to add, we don't have an office in any of these countries. We are, I think that's a kind of one of the things that I'm proud of about CAC is that we don't, when a partner asks us and does the partner application process and they ask us to come to their community, we make sure that we trust their knowledge and their experience in their community. So we don't go and open up an office and say, now this is Coaches Across Continents. So it's really, like I mentioned earlier, it's really just working in these places and offering more tools to coaches and organizations and communities.
Yeah.
Moving on. Go for it, Charlie.
Purposeful play. So using the chatbot, guys, this is the first part for you guys to get involved. What do you guys understand when we say purposeful play? What is it that you guys understand? Don't be shy. Or, I mean, yeah, if you want to come on and talk, by all means, you can do so also. Feel free. Any takers? No takers yet? Come on, there's got to be a brave soul out there. No one?
Oh,
All right.
nice. Look at
Here we go. Thank you, Sam. Here we go.
take
Andy.
some time to type.
Okay, so yeah, playing with intention, beautiful. Games with a purpose and message. Thank you, Andy. Is that Pramod or Pramod? Am I pronouncing that? Playing with a purpose, along with having fun. So yeah, all very good answers. Yeah, I mean, purposeful play is the intentional planning, giving a child or a young coach the chance to learn through play. Studies show that children, in particular, they they learn better and more in depth when they're given the freedom to explore. So they play, they're active, they get to create their own learning environment. And with that, they improve all manner of skills. Their communication, opening minds and empowering. Thank you, Michael. Yeah, communication, working out how to solve problems. Problem solving is a big thing that we work on. But yeah, as I mentioned, obviously giving children the opportunity to create their own learning environment and actually have fun learning. I remember being at school and being sat in a chair for 7 hours a day and just wanting to get outside and play soccer. So I wasn't focusing on what was going on the blackboard. I was focusing on when I was going to score my next goal, which wasn't very often, unfortunately. But yes, so giving children the opportunity to create their own environment and learning, having fun whilst learning, but yeah, having fun. Nora?
Brilliant. Thank you. I love those answers. And I think that's a huge part of it is, what is purpose for one person is not necessarily the same thing for another. So it's really creating that space for opportunity to grow and evolve in the way that we as individuals and children as individuals want to. Great. So now we're going to, before I switch to the next slide, like it might be distracting, we're going to walk through a couple of examples from our curriculum. And before I go there, I think it's important to share that we are not an organization that develops manuals and hands them to partners and says, follow this and you will solve all your problems. Nothing against manuals, that's just not how we operate. So what we have instead are packets that are constantly evolving and growing. And so many of our game ideas, our curriculum, are based on ideas that we learned during trainings with our partners. And so it's kind of cool how we've gone from, maybe one set of 50 games to over 500, maybe even 600 at this stage games in our database that are just kind of ideas that are always growing. And so we've chosen 4 today that we believe are really adaptable because you are all going to help us adapt the game later today. So Charlie's going to take us through the first game that we have here, and maybe ask a question or two. You good, Charlie? You good to go? Do you need connection support here?
Yeah, my connection is going again. I do apologize.
No worries.
Having a nightmare. Right. Hopefully that should be good. Okay, so this is yes, game A, as it's been named, is our lines game. The theme for us is problem solving as a team, working on creativity, and trying to give everybody an opportunity to be leaders, but trying to also identify who the leaders are in our groups and so forth. So as you can see from the diagram, the organization is we put them into 2 teams. Each team consists of 3 to 5 groups. Each group has at least 3 players. So we let the players line up behind the cones. In the diagram, you can see 1, 2, 3, and 4. And yeah, each team is numbered. So the coach will call, for example, 1 and 2, and lines 1 and 2 must change places. The teams keep their number throughout the game. So they're always having to keep their number. So you're always having to try and communicate and work out where the numbers have gone. Obviously, as the game evolves, you can the coach will yell things quicker. So 1 and 3, you can mix the numbers up. Um, Variations are limitless with this game.
Perfect. I think this is one of the games early on in my CAC career where I had one of those like bang my head against the wall moments as a coach. Because again, I grew up and I played in like traditional coaching and traditional sport. And now moving into this CAC world, which was very different, I was kind of going through the training process and we were playing this game and I immediately, like my instinct was solve the problem, right? Like let's solve, I see the problem, like I'm going to go and solve it. And the whole part of, something really important at CAC is that as the coaches, we step back and we kind of create that opportunity for the participants to solve it themselves. So I had my bang my head against the wall moment where I realized, my way, maybe it works, but it works for me. Maybe it doesn't work for everybody. And I think that's especially true with coaches and players where there's that, power dynamic that exists. How can the coach create opportunities for the players to figure it out by them, on their own? So a kind of a quick question there. So we use this term self-directed learning, and I mentioned it earlier. I want to bring it up again here. Similar question that Charlie asked about purposeful play. What do you understand by the term self-directed learning? And we've given you a couple of hints, but kind of open to really just keen to hear what you all think. And feel free to speak if you want to, not all at once. Guided discovery, love that. Love that. I love the word discovery. I think that's a huge part of our curriculum and our methodology. Yes, brilliant. I interpret that as so in a game like this, there's kind of chaos. Like if you start playing and you don't solve the problem immediately, you kind of love that chaos because through chaos there is that opportunity for discovery. Cool. And I would say the guided part is the structure of the game, right? We're not starting from just blank. We have a game structure that kind of guides us through that. So I love that. Thank you. Players help each other to solve the problem. Thank you, Andy. Learning through experience. Thank you, Sam. Making your own choices. Thank you, Michael. Love all of this. Yes, thank you. Um, I think that's exactly it. So it's really, as a coach, recognizing, yes, you have knowledge and you have years of experience. Congratulations. And maybe now's not the time to share it. You'll find your time to share that, especially when, the kids ask for it. But the time for us, at least for CAC, it's the time for guided discovery. It's the time to learn through experience, to help each other solve the problems, to make their own choices. Because we think and we've seen that when they learn to do that through play, they can then do that elsewhere. Cool. Moving on. So this game, so I'll start explaining this game and then we'll open it up again, and Charlie, feel free to jump in wherever. This is one of my favorite games, and I think everyone at CSE knows it. I have a loud voice. Maybe you've already that. I'm sure you had to adjust your volume. But this is a game that it works for me. So this is a game where we have 4 spaces, and you can have more or less. We like, 4 is a good way to start. Any amount of people in the square. With COVID-19, it's been interesting to adapt that, obviously, to maybe bigger squares and fewer people in each square for some social distancing. We'll talk about, a little more about COVID adapting later. So you have, each group is in a square. And in this version of the game, we have it as part of our Ask for Choice curriculum. So it focuses more on gender inequalities. And so with this game, we have that guided portion of the guided discovery where we ask a question that has, it's a specific question. So we start by asking, what are words that you associate with a man? And they label four squares. And so we have those examples, and those examples are not from our heads, but they're some of the more stereotypical examples that we've heard around the world. Um, and then we play. You can start simply by when you call out two words. So if I'm the coach and I call out strong and loud, or as pictured, strong and rich, they can just switch places. Or as you see pictured, you pick a ball out. Again, be careful with safety about where you put it. If you put it right in the middle, you might have a big collision. But if you put it to one side, you have more of, a football match. The goal is to get the ball to the other square. So Rich is now trying to get to Strong, Strong trying to get to Rich, and they switch places. And now but the words stay. So now they also have to think about where, how they switch, and learn all four words, not just the one that they thought of. Really important also is that the coach is asking for the words instead of just labeling the four. So really, they're coming up with these. We're not manipulating that to get somewhere. Because sometimes, again, kids growing up in a different world, they might say something, unexpected, which we love. And then you switch, you transition after a few rounds to words to represent a woman and see what they come up with. And we have heard some interesting things over the years. And you play again. You can evolve the game. If you started without the ball, you can bring the ball in. And then we progress to something else. So there's always, for CAC games, we like to create opportunities for dialogue. So while they were thinking about the word, they were having a dialogue. While, we can also pause the game after each round and reflect a little bit on what were the words chosen for men, what were chosen for women, see what their observations are. And then you can have a final progression. One of my favorite progressions that we came up with kind of live improvising was each group now come up with a word to describe yourselves. So like if there's four people in the box, now think of like what is something that unites you, whether it's sport, whether it's a community, whether it's your favorite food. Think of something that kind of brings you together. Now we start thinking about identity in a different way. And then we have sample discussion questions. Like I mentioned, we provide these PDFs as a guide, but we don't say like you must ask this. This must be the way. This is a shortened version of it. It doesn't have those progressions in there, but we often have a space for progressions as well, possible progressions. Charlie, anything you want to add or a question that you would like to ask?
No, I mean, I think it's just to sort of echo what you finished there. I think that it's very important to remember that, I mean, with CAC, we're very careful when we're designing games to make them as adaptable as possible. We're not going in anywhere in the world and saying, as Nora mentioned earlier, this is how you should do it. This is how you have to do it. Yeah, we try to keep everything as open as possible so the games can be adapted to as many different things as possible.
Perfect. And remember what Charlie just said, because we're going to be doing that shortly. Charlie, you want to go through this next one?
Yes. Okay, so exercise in isolation, game C. Our focus with this one, I've actually had to do this one, and I think doing it in 2013 for the first time was a lot easier than doing it last year. I put on a little bit of weight since. Obviously, it's a little bit harder, but this one is all about strength, healthy bodies, something that's obviously very, very important for young players and young people to learn about. So players are spread around an area, given plenty of space to work in. Their starting position is 0. If a coach then calls 1, players jump to front left. So on a clock, maybe if you were facing 12, it would be 10 o'clock. Then 2 would be 3 would be front right. So yes, and then 4 would be back left. And if you said 5 would be back right. No, sorry, I've got the numbers mixed up there. Do apologize, guys. So yeah, sorry. Number 2 would be front left. Number 3 would be front right. 1 would be front left. Sorry, Nora. 2 would be front right. 3 would be back left. 4 would be back right. And again, coaches, you start nice and slow. Let everybody get warmed up, and then as the game progresses, we speed up. Maybe you'll say 2 or 3 numbers at once. You go 1, 4, 3, and players are challenged to get to those spaces as quickly as they can. As you can see underneath, sampled discussion questions. What muscles and skills are we building in the game? Why is it important to exercise? This is another one that you could ask. You ask here in Cambodia, and they say because my mum tells me to. But if you ask it in America, you will get a very, very different answer. So it's one of my favorite questions, to ask. Who can play this game? Anyone, any ages. And obviously, dependent on the quality level of the group and the age, you can change the movements. It doesn't have to be jumping. It can be a little sprint. It could be hop on one leg. It's up to you guys as coaches to be as creative as you want.
Brilliant.
All right.
Yeah, and I think the only other thing is that, Charlie, I love that you kind of fumbled with the numbers because that happened. That's and I think that's kind of one of the myths about being a coach is that we're perfect and know everything and we can't make mistakes and I think that is something that CAC tries to one of the myths we try to break down because if we make a mistake, yes, we want, maybe we have to establish some sense of experience and knowledge. But I also think there's something really valuable in being vulnerable and making a mistake and then kind of owning it and moving on. I think if children can see you do that, who knows? They might maybe feel more comfortable making mistakes.
I can't even blame the internet for that one.
Go ahead. What'd you say?
I said I can't even blame the internet for that one. My connection's not. I can't blame the connection for that.
You're good. It's brilliant. So yeah, this is another game we'll, keep in your mind if you liked it, and we might come back to it later. Moving on, the last game before we go into the challenge we keep alluding to. I love this game. It's a little bit more football. So again, like Charlie mentioned, we try to come up with games that are really adaptable. We also try to come up with games that are different. So if it's a game that Charlie just explained, or a tag type game, which are not advisable at the moment, or a game like this that's more traditional football, but you'll never see a CAC game that is just two teams going to go trying to score more points than the other. Doesn't exist in our curriculum. There's always another piece that stimulates something, some kind of learning, something different than just trying to win, over the other team. So in this one, this is about something that might be a little bit sensitive in some communities about sexual health. And we think that turning these sensitive topics into games that we can play it's been really effective for us and really valued from our partners who focus on that or want to focus on that. And so in this game, some people might be familiar with the original setup where two teams are divided. Each player has a number, and there's the same number on each team. So on both teams, there's a number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as pictured, or more. Or if you have a lot of kids, a lot of players, you can do you can do pairs. So you don't have to wait and call out 20 numbers at a time. So when you call out a number, you also call out a goal. So before the game starts, as a group, we label each goal. And so this is one of the games where we actually ask a question before we start, whereas sometimes we're often asking them during the game. You could start without the game's label just to get a feel for it, or you can jump right into it. And in that case, it would be a question around protecting yourself from STIs, including HIV, or unwanted pregnancy. And so as listed, again, we wouldn't just choose the way to label. We would listen to what the players say, If it's really, tough, of course you can. This is guided discovery. I'm going to keep coming back to that because I love it.
Yeah.
Um, so you can guide a little bit more if needed. But often what we hear from groups are saying no. Groups like, they might say abstinence, but saying no is a little bit more kind of up to the individual. Getting tested together, or getting tested if you're not in a couple, using a condom. And so now we have three goals that are labeled and we have numbers. So if I say, as the coach, as pictured, number 4, say no, 2 number 4s come, get the ball, again from a safe place so as to avoid collision, and their target is to say no, that goal. So they don't go to the other goals, they just go to that one. So it's kind of a quick thinking, like which direction am I going, which is very football. And it's also, or sport, right? You can use your hands, you can change it up. And also thinking about ways to protect yourself. So I hope that's pretty clear. And you might also already be thinking, what else could we label the goals as? What other social issues could we address in a game like this? Keep going there because we're gonna start the adapt challenge now, and we really are excited to hear your
Yeah.
ideas. Anything you want to
Right.
add before we move on?
Nope. Nope. All good.
Brilliant. Let's do it. Oh, any questions before we move on? Look at our 4 beautiful coaches there and those branded jerseys. All right, let's do this. Give people another moment. All right. Again, if you have questions as they come up, please feel free to ask. And here we go. Great picture from Colombia.
Oh yeah.
Charlie, do you want to introduce the challenge?
Yeah. Okay. Can everyone hear me? I'm constantly worried that my connection's out. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the chat box, but obviously you can feel free to sort of switch on your mic and talk as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one of the games that we've just shared with you, game A, B, C, or D, and we're going to create a new version of that game. Okay, so we're going to need everybody's input. So please don't be shy. There is no such thing as a bad idea. Okay, so game A, game B, game C, game D. By using the chat box now, let's have a vote which one we want to have a look at.
So you can just type a letter in and then we'll see what kind of the consensus is. Oh, wow.
Wow, D. Here we go.
People like that football element. We understand. We know also we didn't mention, but we're really, as people are typing in, really grateful to Homeless World Cup for the partnership we've had with them for years. We've worked with so many of the groups that go to the Homeless World Cup. We're really grateful that they, value what we do and we love what they do. So thank you so much to the Homeless World Cup for
Yeah.
having us here. It's awesome. I see a lot of D1A
Another game D.
consensus. We're getting there. Cool. I have to say then, this was a game that I actually ended up putting in our online platform, but it was inspired by a coach in Cameroon. And we were playing, and we always, during our on-field trainings, um, we kind of go through a lot of curriculum. We play a lot of curriculum. We do very little theory. We love to play. And then towards the end of the week, if it's a week-long training, we create a space to adapt and create games. And so this is one of the adaptations, creations that they thought of in Cameroon. So thanks, Cameroon, for the game that it looks like we're going to be going with today. Cool. Shall we?
Okay. Okay, so then what we're going to try to do is adapt that game to one of the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. So either number 2, number 4, number 5, or number 10. Is that where we are? Is it really Claude Makalele?
Jamie, you gotta own up, buddy.
So again, using the chat box, guys. Which one do we want to go with?
Let's also, Charlie, just quickly, we wanted also to open this up, and we didn't add it to this slide, but if there's another UN SDG that is most important to your community, please feel free to write that in as well. So we've got 4 or 5, 4. Is Jamie going to tell the truth? Okay, we'll come back to that later. Claude Makalele, thank you. 5, 4, great. We chose these because we think generally in our partners we see a trend that 3, 4, and 5. Goal 3 also, a lot of the games were already about that, so that's why we didn't have it listed there. But again, feel free to say any of the SDGs that are important to you. And a bonus question, as you maybe have already read, is anyone familiar with any of the targets? So if it looks like we might be going with 4, quality education, are any of you familiar with any of the targets? I ask that question because often we see goal is such a big topic. And so we also start looking at the targets and actually start measuring impact against the targets, kind of simplify our games and our work a little bit. So thinking of any of the goals, but I guess it looks like goal 4, quality education, is the winner. Does anyone know any of the targets of that goal? Is anyone familiar? Feel free to Google. I use the site often as a reference, the globalgoals.org as a reference because we do a lot of work with them. I'll give people a moment. Thanks, Jamie. Sorry if anyone's disillusioned. They are not in a call with Claude Makalele right now. Okay. Again, just a moment if anyone is familiar with any of the targets. If not, I will read a couple just so we know, because again, quality education, I think people understand, but then when you actually look at the targets, quality education for everyone, perfect. And I think that links to target 4.5, eliminate all discrimination in education. So perfect. And that includes persons with disabilities, or I like to say different abilities, indigenous peoples, and children in vulnerable situations.
Yeah.
So great example. And the reason we're asking this again is as we look ahead now to adapting this game, so game D, which was the going to different goals, which was originally about sexual health, now we're going to adapt it to goal 4, quality education. Focusing on marginalized community, perfect. Thank you so much. All right, so let's move on. That's great. Just another example is, something that's important to us is increase the supply of qualified teachers, which we love because we don't think a teacher is just a person that is in a classroom in traditional education. We think everyone who's linked to Coaches Across Continents, they're all educators. So that's something really important to us. Perfect.
This is doing good. Nope. Let's go. Let's do it. I'm excited.
Perfect.
Designing game.
So now, as we think about going to goal, I think it would be helpful if I bring back the slide. So we see now that it's about sexual health. How can we adapt this to quality education? Does anyone have an idea? Thinking about how the original part of the game is set up, right? Because remember when we ask, what do the goals represent? Examples of how to protect yourself from HIV or STIs. Now, what is that question? What is that first question? What could it be? There's definitely no one answer. I think my mind's already buzzing. This is why I love this, with like notes and ideas to adapt it to to quality education? Does anyone have an idea? And again, feel free to unmute and speak. Perfect. What is stopping a person from getting education? So the three goals could be examples of obstacles to quality education or education in general. I think quality education will stick with that. I love. Let's hear a couple more examples, but then if no one else, let's go with that. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, let's do it.
So we have the game. Everyone has a number. And now we have the three goals or more. You can definitely do more. If you do more than three goals, it's just about your memory or your notepad. You have to remember what they all decided. So three is kind of a cool number because it's not too hard to remember. Okay, so let's go with that. So what is stopping a person from getting education? So three, now we ask the group and they come up with three answers and we label the three goals. If you are all playing with us in a training today, what might you say? What is an obstacle or stopping a person from getting education? Resources, perfect. Any of those almost specific questions we'll come back to later and maybe direct you to a resource there. Perfect. Resources, lack of schools, money, lack of confidence. Yeah, lack of confidence and not feeling like you can achieve. Brilliant. So we have more than three. So let's just choose. I'll just choose the first three. So we have one goal that's resources, another that is kind of similar but just more specific. So just kind of lack of opportunities, and then lack of confidence. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, lack of confidence is interesting because I think about um, maybe if the traditional school system makes you not very smart. So there's something about how school is set up. You go to class and you have to achieve in a certain way. I know that from growing up in the education system in the US, it was very curriculum and test oriented. And I know so many people do not succeed in that environment. So that can really affect your confidence. And then how are you going to get a quality education if you don't feel like that's your place? So great. I like that. I like that answer. So that's great. So now we have resources, lack of opportunities, and lack of confidence. So I'm just going to go back to our process. So that's great. So now that we've gotten how do we change the organization of the game to impact that selected SEG? Congratulations, but we're not done yet.
Not
Chuck,
yet.
do the next piece about how the game evolves, progressions.
Uh,
Shall I continue?
you keep going.
Yeah, cool. All right, so yeah, resources is the key to achieve. Thank you. Yeah, I think access to resources. First knowing what resources exist. I think sometimes there's a gap, and then having access to them. And then what are the resources? Are they quality resources? I think there are. I think we know that there are a lot of great resources out there. Okay, so this is really important to see is that we don't just start a game and end it the same way. So now we've started the game. We're playing. We're going to goal. We have these three goals. We have the problem. We have the obstacle. How can we now shift this game to talking about solutions? Can we label the goal something else? What could the next question be? I kind of gave too much of a hint there. Well, thank. How could the game evolve? How could we finish the game in a different way than we started? And maybe why? Maybe just thinking as a coach, as a leader, why do we do that? Why do we want to not start and end the game in this way? We could, but I think there's more opportunity here. Any thoughts? What, according to them, is a solution? Perfect. I think it can be as simple as that. That is exactly what I would ask. So you can even go by goal. So now we have one goal that's resources. I'm looking at my little doodle. One goal that's resources, And now we can ask, what is a solution to lack of resources, or a challenge relating to resources? What's a solution to the lack of opportunities available? What is a solution to lack of confidence? And now we can label them again. Anyone have a couple of ideas about any of those three that you came up with, or lack of money, as you also came up with? Now we're playing. We just don't have the footballs. Sad. Now I want to play. Just a moment to think of those solutions. You are our players now, people. I think it's also really great that this space allows, because again, like I said earlier, as coaches and people that have maybe a little more experience in the world, we have our ideas of what a solution is. But we're constantly learning from children. If we create that space, we can constantly learn from them. Give and receive support to each other. Perfect. So we can just say, now one goal is support. So now I call a number, I call 5, support, and they go to that goal. So simple.
Yeah, it's a great answer.
We gather necessary resources. So there's something that we can do. We take ownership of that. And I think that's also so important, is that these UN sustainable development goals feel so big. How can we use play to make them feel more manageable for us, little people? Problem solving through teamwork. Awesome. Problem solving. Boom. Another goal. I call number 3, problem solving. Go to that goal. Simple. Simple? Maybe this is really beginner elementary for some people, and so, hopefully you've at least found some inspiration from this to do this more. But I think in our experience with coaches, adapting or creating a new game feels like, it's hard to do that. That it takes a lot of time. But nothing is completely original, and our 600 plus games come from ideas that we've had, or games that we played growing up playing football or sports, or what our partners have. So it's kind of really being inspired by what already exists. Cool. I think we have a game, but there's one final piece. So we've asked 2 questions in this game already. What are obstacles to quality education, or what's stopping you? And then what according to you is a solution to these obstacles? What are some other questions you might ask this group before, during, after the game, to think about quality education or discrimination in education, or something that's relevant to your community? If people have an example, we'd love to hear it. But I think that piece is also just a reminder to, as I'm looking at our time, a reminder to ask questions. Don't give answers. We know you have answers. We love your answers. We think you're brilliant. And we also think other people have answers, and especially young people. And I think they too often are trained to just repeat answers that you gave them, instead of actually, thinking about their lives and their experiences and their circumstances, and speak what is most relevant and true for them. So we try to create as much opportunity for that as possible. Charlie, anything you want to add, as maybe people are typing in some examples of questions or not?
No, all good. You're covering it. I'm loving the answers. I'm loving the energy.
Awesome.
Here we go.
Wish we could all be together
Yeah, I wish we could just be on the field.
safely, right? What is happening in their school? Yes, love that. Love that. This kind of creates an opportunity to learn more about them. They've now played, or they're going to play again, and they've like taken a break because they're tired. And, yeah, what's going on in their lives? What's happening in their school? Maybe they're more comfortable speaking about it now because you've talked about it as a group, you've played. How can we work to change yeah, how can we work
That's a great
together to change that? What is going on in their lives? Brilliant. You're all pros.
question.
So moving on, just kind of quickly, and you can continue to type in questions, but reflecting on this process of how was this new for you? Is this something you do often? Is this something you can continue to do? How was thinking about a game in this way? And where might you need support in this process? Create an environment where mistakes are encouraged, not feared. Mistakes are key to learning. Love it. related to the activities on the ground. Always, always. I love that. I love when like the what we try to do is create games that are the educators. The games hold the learning. And of course then what comes through the games. How they feel when playing the game with their friends. Perfect. Any reflections on this process? Questions? Did you like it? Does anyone want to say something? Does anyone want to speak? We'd love to hear another voice. Claude? Just kidding.
Yeah, I think it's a great process, the way that you can just adapt like to suit anything really, like to any community or whatever the kind of the pressing challenges are. So yeah, I think it shows the strength of the kind of resources there, definitely.
Awesome. That's
Thank you very
Sam.
much.
Thank you, Sam. Perfect. Any others? Anyone else want to share a thought? Very interesting. Good. Yeah, so that's interesting. Thank you, Andy. I think that's a really important piece. More difficult issues. So thinking about the adaptability of these games, it's not just so when we do a training, we like to meet, the people who are in front of us where they are. So yeah, we work with adults and young leaders, but the concepts might be a little bit more, complex. And so we're always trying to think about, well, ask about how can you simplify this? How can it reach someone who's much younger and maybe not thinking about obstacles to quality education just yet? What else can you label the goals and kind of get those critical thinking, problem solving muscles started when they're young? So that's maybe something to think about moving forward. And again, looking at time, I want to offer the last challenge. We know how important social media is in general, but also during COVID, I think everyone's kind of gone into social media in a different way. If anybody had an idea today that you jotted down in your notebook, again, love the notebook, or that's just kind of sitting in your head and you would like to share it, please tag us in Homeless World Cup, and we can kind of continue celebrating this process of creativity and adapting games. And we're running out of time, but also thinking about adapting to the COVID-19 context. We've developed a resource for our partners, and it's been a challenge to think about how to do play with social distancing and keeping safe. So I think it's been a fun challenge for us, given the
Yeah.
circumstances. Yeah. Any input, Charlie, or anyone else want to say something?
No, I mean, again, it's been great to sort of meet everybody, and like I said, I hope really that you've taken something away from today. And yeah, like we said, feel free to contact us if you wanna find out more.
And we have an email there on your screen. I will also say we have our social media is mostly Coaches Across Continents. You can find that. Sometimes it's just Coaches Across. But we would love to hear from you. And Homeless World Cup, I know would appreciate that as well. So thank you all so much for being here with us. We'll hang on for a few more minutes if people want to share anything more. Yeah, this was great. Thank you. Hope people found value in all of this. Anyone, Adam, do you know the Homeless World Cup? I'm just gonna type it in. Yeah, guys, I'm sure if you type in Coaches Across Continents and Homeless World Cup, you will find our accounts on whatever social media platform you choose. And great. We will also share this, I believe, the recording of this as we edit the beginning, because we started a little bit early with some more preparation. And if anyone also wants more access to curriculum or is interested in a partnership, please use that email on your screen. We are here, available, looking at our computers way too often because of the situation.
Yeah, recording and the curriculum will be shared with all of the attendees by email.
Perfect. We can even we'll put the new game on Session Planner. Put the quality education game up there.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks very much.
Good work, guys.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate. Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Thank
Oh, good to see your face. Good to see more faces at the end.
Yeah.
Next time we'll have more
Thank you.
people speaking, hopefully. Please feel free to reach out to us. We love that. We hope to meet you too.
Bod says, great job.
God. Why? You started we should have known that was gonna happen. Is that the real Claude Methylated?
I messaged that guy's boss on Facebook. You know, I told him to say hello to him for me just to say it's not Claude that's saying hello.
Oh, good.
Just before he messaged them.
Brilliant.
Right, good job. I'm going to go.
Great. Thank you, Fodede. Great to have you. Just hang out for a little bit more. Again, if anyone has a question, we'll be here for, we'll say 3 more minutes, so 5 past. Or less if everybody leaves.
Yeah. Wow.
That was fun.
Yeah. It's going to go down in the history books, isn't it? That I got the numbers wrong on my first ever CAC one, isn't it?
Brilliant. I
It's going
loved
to go
it.
down in the history books. I can't wait for the start next week. Ugh.
Only your history, Charlie. If Nick was here, he might, you know, if he sees the recording, he might not let you forget.
Yeah, of course he will.
No, I think it was great. So yeah, I will put the game that they adapted on Sports Session Planner, and we can add that to what we share. Sound good, Adam?
Yes, yeah, that'd be great. We'll get that game, and then obviously just the 4 games that you showed, the originals, off to them.
What did they come? They come up with support for their solutions. Support, working together, and problem solving. Cool. Create an environment where stakes are increased. I really like that. All right. A couple more minutes. People hanging out with us. It's a nice varied geographical representation. I feel like.
And they've got Homeless World Cup is a massive network. So
Was Sam Big Issue? Was he one of the guys who spoke?
Yeah.
Cool.
Sam and George. Yeah.
Great. Elvis and Shop. Do we know any of the other groups that? I know Street Soccer Scotland, obviously. It was great. Cool. All right, shall we? Thanks, guys. Thanks, everybody.
Yep. See you later.
Thanks.
See ya.